Hi, Paul.
How are you, Denise?
All right. Great. All right. Welcome, everyone. I would like to welcome you all to the March 25th business meeting of the Croton-Harmon Board of Education and call the meeting to order. Ooh. Sorry, I lost my thing there. And now let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And recommended action that the Board of Education approves the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carried. All right, now we will move into our public hearing and recommended action that the Board of Education opens the public hearing for the district-wide safety and emergency management plan.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Motion carried. Now, Denise, was there anything that you wanted to note regarding the district-wide safety plan?
Yeah, I just wanted to give an overview of why this change was necessary. So due to executive order, we were asked to implement another component to our district-wide safety plan. We normally approve this in September, and we will have to approve it again. But it is basically memorializing our reentry plan in a format that is required by the executive order. It looks at our essential workers. It looks at adequate PPE to return to work should there be another pandemic or a recurrence of our pandemic. So we revised the plan. We've shared it with our union leaders, admin council. We shared it with the community on February 11th and opened it up for a 30-day comment period. And this evening, we're holding the public hearing for any further comments and up for adoption for the April 1st deadline. And I've invited Paul Schemmer. Paul is our district safety and security coordinator. He works with our partner Altaris, and he has been very involved in making these minor changes to the plan, but is also a key player in our safety and security program. So if there were any questions that Paul could answer or I could answer, I thought it would be helpful to have him here. So thanks for coming, Paul. And then we should open up for public comment.
Yeah, so we had officially opened the hearing, so we are open for public comment. I don't think that we have any public attending currently in the meeting. So
I don't see anyone in the.
Yeah, I don't see anyone in the waiting room or anyone who has joined.
I'm sorry that I'm late. I don't know whether you formally moved to open the public hearing.
Yes.
We did.
I will formally move to close the public hearing.
There we go.
Thank you, Neil.
Can I get a second on that? Second from Iris. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Motion carried. All right, and now we will move on to 2.4. Recommended action. Be it resolved, after having given the public an opportunity to be heard at a public hearing, the Board of Education hereby adopts the district-wide safety plan, and be it further resolved that the district clerk is directed to file the district-wide safety plan with the Commissioner of Education within 30 days of the adoption, as well as provide a copy to appropriate local law enforcement agencies and the state police.
So moved.
Can I get a second? Is that
Second.
Andrea? All in favor?
Oh, just,
Aye.
can I just ask a quick question before
Yes.
we?
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
Sorry.
And it just really requires a yes or no. Denise, you mentioned that public comment, they could have been submitted as well. I just want to know, did we receive any submissions?
We did not.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. All right. And now we will move into reports.
Thanks,
Um,
Paul.
So we will start off with my report. My report tonight will be very short, given that this is our second business meeting this month. I would just like to take the opportunity to remind any community members who are considering board service that we are available to answer any questions you may have about serving on the board. We did hold a Q&A session earlier this evening, but we will be holding additional sessions on April 7th and April 8th. And the details and Zoom links were sent out yesterday via K-12. But you can also reach out to any of the board trustees and learn more by visiting our website. Just as a quick reminder, there are 3 trustee positions that will be filled in the election on May 18th, 2021. At the election, voters will select 3 trustees, one of whom will take over the remainder of former trustee McFadden's term immediately after election until June 30, 2023. With the other 2 beginning new 3-year terms on July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2024. So candidates must file a nominating form with 25 signatures with our district clerk, Tracy Borges, on or before 5 p.m. on Monday, April 19th, 2021.
One thing that I think,
Yes.
and Tracy perhaps can confirm this, is that the candidates will be not running for particular seats.
No.
And the first and second place finishers will fill the 21 to 24 term. And the third place finisher will fill the vacancy until 2023.
Correct, Neil. The third highest will take that last term.
Correct.
And we'll start
And
that
start the
very
day-
night or the next morning or as soon as they can.
We will have to swear them in and they will start the next day. And that's why we'll have to hold that meeting to affirm the votes.
Oh, so I guess for the board, what you're saying is we will plan to have a meeting at after the votes are counted in order to accept the vote so that person can, whoever is coming on immediately will be able to come on.
Yes.
Correct. We can do that the following day.
The following
and
day.
Swear that person in.
Okay.
Yep. Andrea, you had a quick question?
Yeah, it's a really quick question. If, let's say, I hope this isn't the case, but if we don't get any, we don't get 3 people putting in their petitions, can the board then choose to select somebody for the McFadden seat?
Mm-hmm.
We would do write-ins.
No,
Well,
but
maybe because we were able to appoint, but
Yes.
we could do that. you
yes,
know?
if there
I
are
don't
not,
believe so.
No.
oh no, certainly, if there is a vacancy,
Mhm,
right, we can appoint to fill the vacancy.
right.
Yeah,
Now,
but not
if
until
we-
July 1st.
No,
No.
if we
Oh,
have,
well, right.
if
Okay.
there-
Yes.
if there are
right.
two candidates and no write-ins,
At 6
then
p.m.
yes, we fill it. If there are
Okay,
two
right.
candidates
Yeah.
and
Right.
one
That's-
write-in that gets 3 votes, that person is it. And if that person declines, then we have a vacancy
But
that we
the
fill.
board could conceivably, if not enough people file a petition on, our intention, we set it up this way because that's what we wanted. We wanted the public to come forward and have as much say in this. But we could on the petition day later that evening appoint somebody if there wasn't anybody, if there weren't 3 people running.
Correct. But as I noted, if there are write-ins and someone has 2 write-in votes,
Well,
they
that's
are the third place winner.
Right.
And then unless they decline, they're it.
Right.
right. Okay.
Okay. With that, then I end my president's report, and we will move into hearing of public. I did receive one letter for hearing of public this evening, so I will read that. Hi, Sarah. I appreciate all the effort the school and the BOE has done this year. However, I am extremely disappointed in the way the school has approached this latest change. It has caused a lot of unnecessary stress on my family. My wife and I opted to keep both our kids fully remote this year, reiterated that commitment for the second half of the year, and now are faced with a situation where we have to coordinate amongst other parents to determine the best course of action for our children. That should never happen. Like many other parents, we moved to Croton for the schools. Thus far, the education my children have received has met our expectations. However, the school failed to do during this COVID time. From the hiring of Dr. Mojica to the hybrid model to this latest change with a potential concurrent experience, it has been an awful experience. Our children deserve better than what has been provided to them over the past 12 months. Respectfully yours, Silvio DeSisto. And that is the only letter I got for public comment. And again, we do not have any other public attending in the Zoom meeting with us. So with that, I will close hearing the public. And now I will hand it over to Dr. O'Connell to give her superintendent's report.
Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening to the board. Good evening to our viewing public. Thank you again for any feedback we receive. We listen to everything and it becomes part of our thinking, planning, etc. So always appreciate that. I'm really going to be short as well. So because we just had a very lengthy meeting not too long ago, but we are moving towards spring break. So the first and foremost, I'd like to really say to anybody who's listening, we must continue our safety practices. I know it feels like spring. It is spring. We have beautiful days. We want to gather and be together, but we must continue our safety practices. That means social distancing. That means mask wearing, washing hands, etc. Okay, we are still needing to monitor all of COVID in the area. And we really do not want to have to be quarantining, isolating, etc. We want to be back all together and continue our learning without interruption. So if everybody could all work together, as we've said, it's really a community effort. We did complete our last commitment forms. John, do you want to give an update as to where we are with schools, with Family's Choice on either remaining remote or returning in person 5 days?
I'd be happy to. So as the board will recall, we did survey our public back on March 16th as to whether they wanted to choose the full-time in-person learning model or the fully remote learning model. We did ask for all of those forms to be back this past Monday, March 22nd. We have a decent response rate. We have a lot of thanks to give to our building administrators who have spent a lot of this week reaching out to non-respondents to try to get our data as accurate as possible. We do have a grade level breakdown. I won't go into that level of detail for the purpose of this meeting, but it certainly could be provided to the board. For the purpose of this report, I will provide everybody with a building overview as to the numbers of families wishing to return to all in person as opposed to those who want to be remote. So at CET, where there are a total of 537 families, we have had 85 who have yet to respond, so that's a 15.8% no response rate to this point. So, but of those who did respond, 446, or about 83%, will be returning to full-time in-person learning. There are 44 students, or about 8.2%, who are saying that they would like to stay fully remote. At PVC, where there are 493 students, we only have 6 no responses, or 1.2%. Of the families who have responded, 446, or 90.5%, have chosen to return to full-time learning, and 41 students, or 8.3%, are deciding to remain fully remote. At the high school, where there are 473 students, we have 34 non-respondents, or 7.2%. Of those people who have responded, 360, or 76.1%, are choosing to come back to full-time learning, and 79 students, or 16.7%, have chosen to stay fully remote.
Thank you, John.
John, one thing, I wish to correct. The students who have chosen the fully return option they're not the ones who have decided on full-time learning, because those who are fully remote, we hope, will also have full-time learning.
Thank you for the correction. I must have forgotten to interject the in-person, full-time in-person learning. My apologies.
Okay, I just want to make sure the public understands, and we all understand.
Full-time learning is indeed the expectation for any model that any students choose. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So when we return from spring break, we are still in our current model. So when we return on Tuesday, April 6th, we continue with the normal schedule. We start transitioning the week of April 19th. On the April 19th day, that will be a transition day for staff. And the full-time in-person learning model will begin then on the 20th of April. That's also the week that we are going to be beginning expanding our surveillance testing program. We've been very successful thus far with how we've been handling our surveillance testing processes, and we'll be expanding that the week of April 19th. We've sent some information out. It is voluntary, but here I go again. Yes, it's voluntary, but it is my hope that the community sees this as an extremely important, highly encouraged mitigation layer. That is one way we can surveil our students as well as staff to monitor positivity. And if we catch it immediately, the person can be isolated and we mitigate spread. So it's a very important mitigation layer. And it is my hope that even though we have to say voluntary, that we will have community support and community volunteering. It is a non-invasive test. In the information we've sent out, we've showed a video, non-invasive, rapid results. So that will begin, I shouldn't say begin, but really be ramped up beginning the week of April 19th. Also very important is I sent out information about quarantine restrictions on travelers. This is critical that we follow the letter of the advisory. The most up-to-date information is always on the New York State Travel Advisory website, and we have provided that to our families. And critical also to that is if you are traveling, there is a traveler health form that must be completed. We have included that link in the communications that we've sent out to families. Students will not be permitted back into school unless, if they've traveled, unless they've followed all of the traveler guidance that is on the New York State website. That is important. Also, the communication of positive results. We're beginning to streamline that. Many districts just don't put it out as we've done in the past. I have received feedback where Sometimes, why are you sending this to me? This doesn't apply to me, or there are a lot of emails, etc. So we're trying to streamline our process and not be sending it out every single time there is an episode. We have the link to the report card, so all of our information is right there on the website. You just click on it, click on Croton. You can see up to the date that every day we are in school, that we put our results in. So fully transparent, it is there. When I sent that out, I did receive 4 emails saying, I really do like the emails. I know they're voluminous sometimes, but I do like them. So what I said to those families, as I said, I received 4 emails asking if it's something we could continue. I said to each family that responded to me that I will bring that back to the COVID coordinator team and get their feedback on that. But many districts are just going with the report card, making sure that's available on their website for families to see, instead of the barrage of emails regarding COVID positivity. So I'll bring that back to the COVID coordinators. But as of this point, when we return from spring break, we'll be relying heavily on the New York State report card. I wish everybody a wonderful spring break. And again, I say it with please, a big please, a huge please. Continue to follow the very important mitigation strategies of social distancing, mask wearing, hand hygiene, and all of the others that are put in place. Neil, I see your hand up.
Yeah, just to be clear, the change to full-time in-person learning is going to occur on the 20th, no school on the 19th. So for
Correct.
the first 2 weeks after spring break, we'll be following the same hybrid model as we have followed to this point.
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct. No changes to our current way in which we're doing business until the week of the April 19th. On the 20th, we changed to the full-time in-person model and or remote.
Can I just ask a quick question, Debbie? And I don't want to get ahead of the COVID coordinator. I think it's the COVID coordinating committee
Team.
I don't want to get ahead of them. But what I would like to get is an understanding. Is there another reason other than reduction of the number of emails that is behind the decision not to send out the communications, or to maybe modify the way they go out?
That's a great question. John, being the district COVID coordinator, do you want to weigh in on that? Email volume was some of the feedback that I've received personally along the way. Or why is it you're sending me this? My kid doesn't go to that school, or things along those lines.
So it's twofold. I echo that sentiment that have been hearing feedback from the public with regards to the number of emails and the relevancy of emails, since they are district-wide communications, alongside the fact that we are required by New York State to report any COVID-related incident on a daily basis. So there is an incredible communication portal where you can log in and see our district statistics and a building breakdown that actually provides a great number of details with regards to what is happening within the district on a daily basis.
And there's actually more information in the portal. And this is what we've really not been able to understand to date. The Department of Health continues to tell us we must use the word individual. We shouldn't be saying student or staff. Yet for New York State, we have to report student, staff. John, you do it daily, so and other information in there. Is it done by teacher, to staff, and then students? So
That's
they
correct.
get more delineate more information than we are told we should be providing in any communication out.
And I just have that on the screen, and I see all that information that is available with 3 clicks. Go to the homepage.
I put it, we had that put on there for families. Yep,
Put our district in and it comes up.
yep.
Yeah, no, I was just, so I'm just trying to, get a understanding of the motivation or the reason for not continuing the notifications, even if it's on a school-wide basis, to maybe reduce the, like, were other alternatives considered, et cetera. I'll wait to see what your committee comes up with, but I was just curious as to.
One of the other alternatives I'm going to share with the COVID coordinator team is the principals send out a weekly letter. Is that something that, information could be put in there? So each week they would say X number of cases at CET this week, or PVC, or at the high school. So when and again, I just received the 4, but I really, I always ponder when we receive information. So I've been giving it some thought, and I told them I would bring it back. But as I was thinking, I thought, well, is there another vehicle to, to give information? So I started to think along those lines. So that's where we are with that.
I'd like to, if I may also just to add an important point, that regardless of the manner with which we communicate the specific data around COVID, nothing has changed with regards to our practices once there is a positive case. So, although it is the Department of Health that enacts quarantine, we have been extremely diligent as soon as there is any positive case to do a lot of communications, to proactively get in touch with anybody that we feel might be identified as a contact by the Department of Health. So just want to reassure the board and the public that that work is something that is quite refined at all of our buildings and certainly ongoing.
And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, well then we will move on to ongoing business, and 4.1, recommended action that the Board of Education conducts a second hearing and adopts the following board policies as presented. It's policy 0100, non-discrimination and equal opportunity, which is a revision. 110, which is sex discrimination and sexual harassment, which is also a revision. And 110R, sex discrimination and sexual harassment regulation. And that is a revision as well. Neil, did you have anything to add?
I have nothing to add. The revisions, I said at our last meeting, so I'll just repeat, that our revisions are made to meet the requirements of New York State law with respect to primarily harassment, also to deal with definitional changes in those categories that are covered by human rights law. There is no, that's basically what the changes are, and these were reviewed by the policy committee to ensure that the specific procedures as are laid out in the regulation 0110R make sense with how we would conduct an inquiry, how we would deal with all of the issues attendant that if such a complaint comes up. I did not receive any comments, questions, or rather the committee did not receive any comments or questions from other board members after the first reading. So unless there are some comments or questions, there's not much else to say.
All right. Can I get someone to move that?
Well, I'll move it. Okay, Iris moves it. I'll second.
You'll second? All right. On the question? All in favor? Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. All right. And the second item in 4.2 is a discussion, and that are the 2021 calendar year goals for the board that board development have been working on. So I will turn this over to Iris briefly if she has any comments, and we have the goals here for us to discuss, and then we can put them up for adoption at our April business meeting. So Iris?
Thank you. So basically, we have 4 goals under consideration. You have the documents. What we will ask is if you have any suggestions or comments, please forward them to board development, and we'll have them finalized for you at the next meeting. The 4 goals are to 1, hire a new superintendent, 2, inherent bias, cultural responsiveness, which is the goal we had this year. So it's a continuation of that goal. And 3, sustainability, which is a goal we had last year.
Addressing post-pandemic needs is the other goal that we had.
Cool.
That is the number is number 2 actually on the list.
Yes, it's I see it now. So there's 2 new goals and 2 goals that are carrying over from last year. So any comments, please feel free to email them to us unless you have something you want to add right now.
I was just going to say that we sort of folded in restorative justice into the inherent bias goal.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have any comments for right now? Okay. Then any comments you have, just get them to board development and we will have it up for adoption at our April meeting. All right. And now we will move into new business. Recommended action that the Board of Education approves the placement of outdoor lending libraries at the Carrie E. Tompkins Elementary School as presented.
I'll move. Or second.
On the question?
Yeah, on the question. My question is, the proposal is to have 4 lending libraries, basically structures that are going to be at various places around this, I believe, the CET campus, similar to the little lending library that we find at the bus stop near the corner of Maple and Old Post Road, right? It's it's kind of take a book, give a book, that kind of thing. Since that's going to be on school district property, do we have any issue that we need to consider in terms of insurance, in terms of liability concerns?
Nothing came up when we were reviewing it with Paul. So nothing.
Okay, and I don't know that there would be. I'm just because we're going to be. We have 2 things. One, we're going to be having. This is an Eagle Scout project,
right,
by one of our high school students. So the student will be on our property. That's fine. We've done that before with other projects, but we're also going to have members of the school community, perhaps even members of the general community, coming to those receptacles to give or take books. As long as we don't see that as being an issue, I have no problem with the proposal. I just raise it for consideration.
All right, the campus is open to the general community, so.
True.
Yeah.
But one of the differences is, and maybe it's not a difference, is that we are, by this project, inviting people to come. But I suppose we invite people to come to use our tennis courts and to use the Columbini activity or exercise.
Right.
So I guess it probably doesn't make a difference. But
Yeah, you raise a good point though, Neil. Denise, from that perspective, do you see any concern, or do you want to?
I don't, but I will certainly run it by our insurer.
Okay.
I was going to say, just, I'm not really so concerned about the people coming on the property, but I'm just wondering if anybody's going to be checking the books to make sure that they're age appropriate. That would be my one question.
Yeah, I had a similar question, which was who's managing this? These aren't school library books, right? This is kind of semi-distanced from the school, or like.
We'll have to look into that. That's was not in the Eagle Scouts to be proposal. Right.
Okay. Then shall we table this until the April meeting?
And
So look for
one
these
question
for-
I had,
Mhm.
does the board, is this more of an informing the board, or does the board actually have to approve Eagle Scout projects?
Well,
I'm trying to think, did we approve
I
the
don't-
bench that was put up for Lacey? I don't know if we did.
I think we did.
Yeah,
we did.
Yes.
We definitely did.
yeah, we
Maybe
put it
because
down
it's
as
a
approved, but
Maybe
Yeah.
because it's a structure on school property.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think we need to approve it. I mean, I
Okay.
don't have any strong objection to it, but I think we do need to get answers to some of these questions. and
okay,
just
so there are
understand the procedures around it.
Okay, so there are two questions that I just want to make sure I've captured from the insurer
Mhm.
perspective, and then who is manning the books and seeing what's in there and if they're age appropriate.
Well, and I would also say age appropriate, and that there are not things put into the receptacle that might be offensive. Things that we would not want. We would not distribute to our
Mhm.
students, which
Right.
is, age appropriate may be part of
Mhm.
that, but that's also a concern when you open that up.
It
I-
does say that, I'm sorry, Josh.
Go ahead.
It does say in the proposal that the Kindness Club will
Yeah.
fill the books, the library with the books.
Mhm.
So I presume that there's an advisor to the Kindness Club.
Yes, that
All
is
right.
true.
Working with the students
Mhm.
to
Yes,
make that safeguard.
Which raises one other question. What happens during the summer?
right.
You have to figure out how we're going to
Mhm.
deal with that, because the club won't be in existence, active, and the faculty advisor will not be here most probably. So we'll have to figure that out.
So summer, I understand. And you're right, Iris, it does say the Kindness Club will fill them with books for kids in K-4 and maintain them.
Yeah,
So that's in the proposal.
yeah. That addresses the who will vet the books
so we have
and
that
who will
one.
maintain them.
Mhm.
It's just I think I'd just like to hear the answer, the what's going to happen over the summer or while school is closed, basically.
Mhm.
So may I
That
make
and the
a
insurance.
may I make a motion to table?
So
I do
moved.
make a motion. I make a motion to table this to the April
Okay.
meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Oppose, abstain, motion carries.
Okay, we will reach out to our future Eagle Scout and get the questions to him, and then we will get that information to the board, as well as any of the insurer piece as well.
And I was going to just offer, if he would like to come to the board meeting, we'd be more than happy to hear from him
Okay.
personally about his goals.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We would very much like that.
And I very much appreciate this this gesture, this project. I think it's a cool project. We just need to work out the details.
Yes, I love when they think of their school.
As well as the Kindness Club, if they want
Yeah.
to come to join us.
Thank you, board.
Thank you.
All right. So now we will move on to 5.2. Recommended action that the Board of Education approves the SEQRA resolution as presented.
Second.
Iris moved.
Second.
Okay. On the question?
Sarah?
Yes.
If I could just, I've also invited Aldo Mezzafaro from ECG to speak if anyone had any questions. But as you know, we're embarking on our EPC review, and this project is going to be starting at the probably September, October. So in order to do that, and as a state agency, we're required to consider the environmental, social, and economic factors. And that's what this SECRA resolution represents.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Aldo?
No, I guess, Aldo, you have been, well, I guess my question is, we received from Denise the lengthy, not yet completed contract with various exhibits and appendices. I'm assuming that between you and our council, we will make sure that what commitments we are getting from Honeywell, which is our next item on the agenda. Well, I guess if we're approving that contract, that's kind of all been worked out. Am I right?
Absolutely correct.
Yep.
Okay. And I guess, yeah, I was thinking it was something that's not today, but it is today. So sorry.
Any other questions for Aldo? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose, abstain, motion carried. All right, and we'll move on to 5.3. Recommended action that the Board of Education approves the resolution to authorize an EPC energy performance contract between the Croton-Harmon Union Free School District and Honeywell as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Iris seconds. On the question? No question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstain, motion carries. All right, thank you very much, and thank you for joining us, Aldo. Oh, do we have one more on here? The EPC, well, that's not on here. Recommended action that the Board of Education approves the resolution to authorize the proposition for energy performance contract as presented.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
Yeah, I think it would be important to the listening public for we all be provided with an explanation of what that resolution is all about, and why, after we have approved a contract, we have a resolution that we're going to be asking the voters to consider approving.
Denise, did you want to?
Absolutely. So there is a provision in the law which allows the voters to vote on an additional 10% aid for the work that's done with our EPC contract. So we get our standard aid portion, and this would allow an additional 10%. I'm just pulling up the value of that 10% in my numbers. Aldo, do you have that handy?
I took a look at it earlier in anticipation of this question. So I believe it's in the $15,000 to $20,000 range per year. So it's a
yes, and
it's a great opportunity for the district.
Yeah, it's the cumulative amount is $370,000. So by putting this out to the public to vote, we would receive an additional 10% in aid equivalent to $370,000 over the life of the project. So it's a great opportunity. Not all school districts participate in it, but because of the size of this project, it was beneficial for us not to forego that additional building aid.
So for the public, it's very simple. Vote yes, we'll get more aid. Vote no, we're still going ahead with the contract, but we won't get as much aid.
Well said, Neil.
Does anyone have any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose, abstain, motion carried.
Great.
All right, and I think that is all of the EPC related resolutions.
I think so.
Thank
Only
you for
3
joining us,
tonight.
Aldo.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate all your support so far. Looking forward
Have a
to
nice night.
getting started. Thanks.
We are too. Thank you, Aldo.
Bye.
All right, so now we'll move on to 5.5. Recommended action that the Board of Education approves the transportation propositions resolution as presented. Iris has moved it. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Neil seconds. On the question?
Yeah. Since there are 4 resolutions or propositions, and they may have some, some are dependent on, or 3 are dependent on the first proposition. I think it might be helpful, I know we discussed it among ourselves in public session on Tuesday, to go over again exactly what those propositions are and why they are provided or set forth in the manner they are.
Absolutely. Denise,
And-
did you want to speak? I'm sorry, Iris?
Sarah, just before, I just realized, and I know I'm the one that moved it, but I didn't realize they were all 4 collapsed into one. And because I don't want to vote against them all, is there any way we can separate them?
Separate the resolutions?
Yes, because the resolution has all 4 in one. If not, I can just abstain.
Yeah, I'm not sure there is because, but that's really
All right, so then just continue on and just, I didn't want to vote against the whole thing.
Mhm.
All right.
Denise, did you want to give an overview of the propositions?
Absolutely. So the first proposition is for 2 non-electric vehicles that are essential to the transporting of our students next year based on our current enrollment. And it also includes an optional or potential electric vehicle charger. And I'll speak to that in a moment. So the first proposition is 2 non-electric vehicles and an electric vehicle charger. The next proposition, which is contingent upon the first proposition and contingent upon NYSERDA grant funding, is for an electric 66-passenger school bus with anticipated funding from a NYSERDA grant equivalent to $120,000. The following proposition, which is like the third proposition, which is also contingent on the first proposition of the 2 non-EV and electrical charger vehicles, is a 27-passenger minibus with an anticipated funding of approximately $90,000. The last proposition is for an identical vehicle. It is also a 27-passenger microbird minibus with anticipated funding of $90,000 through NYSERDA. There is a potential for an additional $10,000 in NYSERDA funding on the first microbird. We've since heard from NYSERDA that NYSERDA awards the grant. We don't choose which one we accept. They're awarded to us. The board had some concerns because that $10,000 represented Volkswagen funds, which are for disadvantaged communities. So it was the position of the board that they felt, or at least members of the board felt, that they didn't want to utilize those funds, that they wanted to leave those for a more disadvantaged community. So within the proposition, we've included 90 as opposed to the 100. And I'm happy to discuss it further. And I did also say that these are all with not to exceed amounts. So if prices go down, or there are better options of vehicles, or if for example, if the district could not get the funding, let's say the district could not get the funding within that year, within the 21-22 school year, the proposition allows for that proposition to be effective for 10 years after. So if the funding didn't come in, we could hold on to that proposition and utilize it once the funding became available.
Denise, could you explain though, because I know we've been listening to this and really going through it, but why we need to have the first proposition, why that's important?
So I think because of the economic and financial crisis that some of our community is in, that our district is facing, certainly with some budget shortfalls, that we weren't entirely sure that the public would understand and appreciate the electric vehicles. And we have 2 non-electric vehicles on because they are essential to meet our student transport needs. So by linking them, it ensured that we had the essential vehicles to move forward into the 21-22 school year. But also by separating them, it gave the public the option of choosing one, or saying, yes, we definitely want to be the first district in the county to get an electric bus. But we didn't want to bundle them all together so that it maybe was too much.
Well, and I would say too that to follow up on that, I thought part of it was that since the additional funding has not come through yet, that we just needed to have a plan B in case.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
There are many, many factors, but the issue with the electric vehicles is that there is a delay in delivery at times. And also because the funding, it is all contingent on the funding. So that could bring us into the 22-23 school year. And in that case, we wouldn't have a vehicle available for us.
Neil, you had a question?
Well, not so much a question. I just want to add to that explanation based on my understanding. And that is, we've already been told that we have a need to replace 2 smaller school buses, which we are referring to as vans. And that necessity to replace them becomes crucial as of August 30th, 2021. Meaning when school opens, we've got to have the vehicles in hand. And if they can be electric, great. But we can't wait for the possibility that we're going to get the funding for what is Proposition 3 and Proposition 4 in what's before us. And we can't get those from other sources. So we have this. Now, my understanding is, and Denise, you can confirm this, that just because we pass a resolution doesn't mean we're actually going to purchase those buses. We're not going to borrow the money. So for example, if the voters agreed and approved all 4 of these resolutions, and we were able to get the funding, grants for the 1 or both of those 27 electric powered vehicles, we would buy and have delivery by September. We would buy those 27 passenger vehicles, and we would not buy the gas vehicles. However, if we cannot get the gas vehicle, the electric vehicles in time, we have to meet the needs of our students, and therefore we will have to buy the gas or the fossil fuel powered 26 smaller vehicles that are in Proposition 1. And we cannot, and Denise, please confirm this, or if I'm wrong, tell me, we cannot simply say we pass a resolution, and if we cannot get the money in time, we can always use that same money for gas vehicles. My understanding is, and you can confirm this or not, is that if we have a resolution that does not include Proposition 1 and there's no money, we have no authority to buy or to borrow any money, bond any money, to buy any buses.
That's
And
correct.
then we will not have the buses that are needed
That's correct.
for our transportation program come next year. So this provides alternatives with based on our commitment that we want to electrify the fleet, but also recognizing that our primary responsibility is to, in transportation, is to transport students. And so just to confirm that we can't switch the money around willy-nilly.
Confirmed. Yes, the proposition needs to be very transparent and clear, and there is no leeway whatsoever in, the only leeway that we have is the 10-year length of the proposition, which allows us to utilize it at a later date. But other than that, it's laid out pretty clear, as you can see from the resolution.
So the 10-year would mean that if we are forced by circumstance to buy the gas-powered buses, Proposition 1, and Proposition 2, 3, and 4 are also adopted, at some point when that funding becomes available, if it does, we will then be able to use that pre-existing authority to buy electric buses. And if we can't use this formula or formulae, then we will ask the voters, subsequent boards will ask the voters for authorization to purchase electric vehicles, and we can use that resolution. That's the way it works.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brian?
Yeah. Okay. I'm not entirely sure that everybody's going to find that to be all that clear, but I think that the resolutions themselves individually are clear, but the intent of the set of propositions isn't very clear, and it probably has to do with a bunch of legalese that nobody gets, except for the bond people. So my understanding is that our primary intent is to buy electric vehicles, and we will only buy those gas vehicles if we cannot buy the electric vehicles. However, the reverse is true. If we cannot buy the electric vehicles, we must have something. So just to make sure that everybody completely understands, we do not want, if at all possible, to be buying these gas vehicles. But there's a few conditions that need to be met, including passing the resolutions and getting the grants and the availability of the buses. Those must all be met in order to meet our transportation needs. So it's not, Prop 1 is not our primary, we want to buy gas buses. That's just, we need buses. And so the next three say, well, we'd rather have these. And if we can get them, we will not buy the ones that are powered by gas.
Exactly.
Yes, and Brian, you said that much more clearly and succinctly than I did.
I tried.
And I think just for the public to understand, the reason they were broken out into individual, again, to Brian's point of, it's probably a little bit of legalese, but this way, if there are any funding issues with one of the electric buses, it doesn't preclude us from moving forward with the others. And so that is why we've split them out into 4 different propositions, where in the past we have had one transportation proposition on the ballot at the annual ballot time. So does anyone have any other questions? All right, Iris.
I think Iris has a question.
Not so much of a question as much of I just want to state before the voting why I would abstain. And the one thing I would note is we have them all on this resolution as one, but when it goes to the voters, they will have 4 separate things to vote on. So I just want to make sure our voters understand. The only reason why I'm abstaining right now is because we have it all in one bucket. And so I can't vote, on each one individually. The second thing is the amount of the electric vehicle, I know during our discussion on Tuesday, I threw out a number of 760, rounding them all up. I would like the voters to make sure they see that the actual price that this bond is, these 4 bonds are recommending has been reduced by about 200 or so odd $1,000. So that number that we were talking about on Tuesday during our discussion, the voters should realize that the amounts total a little differently now. They were able to be brought down by removing a couple of the chargers, if I'm correct, Denise?
What we had, each of the propositions needed to stand on its own, so that if one was passed, if we put the charger in one and that proposition wasn't passed, then we would be short a proposition. So in speaking with bond counsel yesterday, we were trying to determine a way to go about it. So what we did was, instead of having each charger in with each unit, and then subsequently, if they were all approved, we would have only purchased one charger and therefore borrowed less. But instead, what we did was we moved the charger to the first proposition, and that charger will cover all vehicles if all vehicles are approved. So that reduced the amount of the overall proposition for each individual item.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure, in case someone doesn't see tonight's meeting and only saw the meeting the other night, they don't walk away with thinking it's one number when it actually is a little lower. And then the last thing, I will abstain. I don't want anyone to think I'm against the electric vehicles. I am. I just don't. I'm not in favor of buying such a big bond package. So I will be abstaining on that grounds. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. All right. Now I will move on to 5.6. Recommended action that the Board of Education approves the notice of annual meeting and budget hearing as presented.
Oh,
Can I get a second? Seconded by Iris. On the question?
On the question, just wondering, because I'm looking at this, want to make sure, okay, we have enhanced aid, where is, just want to make sure it's here, the resolution for the voters, okay, there it is, the ex officio voters, that's there.
Yep.
Okay, that's fine. Some of them are indented on the agenda, but that's fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. Now we'll move into instructional personnel.
Sarah?
Yes.
I noticed that this was in Spanish. It was in both languages, but I don't recall seeing that on the other propositions. Will all the propositions be put out in multiple languages? Well, Spanish and English.
Only those referring to the budget need to be in another language. So the vote, anything on the vote needs to be translated. That's why that is translated, and that's going in the paper.
So the other propositions will only be presented in English?
No, that includes them.
That includes
They're all in
of the
there.
propositions.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Instructional personnel. Recommended action that the Board of Education approves the appointment of Alyssa Gonzalez, 1.0 FTE elementary teacher, as a leave replacement for Lisa Vlad at the Carrie E. Tompkins Elementary School, effective February 22, 2021 through April 15, 2021, and then for Debbie Liebert from April 16, 2021 through June 30th, 2021 at an annual salary of $57,366, BA Step 1, to be prorated.
So moved.
So moved.
A second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries. Recommended action, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Croton-Harmon Union Free School District hereby approves the side letter agreement between the district and the Croton Teachers Association and authorizes the superintendent of schools to take all actions consistent with the terms thereof.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Abstain?
I'm
Motion-
abstaining.
Abstention from Josh, and motion carries. Now we will move into consent agenda. Recommended action that the Board of Education approves all items in the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carries.
I apologize. Who seconded that?
Brian seconded that.
Thank you, Brian.
And all right, now we will move into the close of the meeting. And this is our second hearing of the public opportunity. I'm looking again in the, we have no public in the waiting room or who have joined us. And I have no other letters that we had received. So we will then move into board reports. We can start off with advocacy. We met yesterday.
We met yesterday and we talked about putting together a campaign around getting voter voice letters out for in support of school funding. So we've been working diligently on that for the past 2 days, and we'll be getting information out to the public via K-12, social media. But the one thing I would say is that funding is so critical right now that we're really calling upon the public to help us with this. So to even go beyond not just sending the letter, but talking to your friends and neighbors in the Croton-Harmon district and asking them to send it too. Because together we can really get a lot of these letters out. Our elected officials, Senator Pete Harcum and Assemblywoman Sandra Galiff has said that it's really critical for them to be hearing from the public when they're pushing back to save our funding and to really do what's right for schools. So that's it. And Neil and Sarah were part of the meeting and part of this.
All right, thank you. Board development, Iris, do we have any other updates? I think I kind of ran over a lot of what you might discuss in my president's report, but.
I just want to encourage the community. We will, there is a video that was played at Budget Saturday that hopefully will go on the website soon. And then we have 2 additional budget videos that will be coming out. And basically the theme of 3 additional videos. Basically the theme is really just to give the public some insight from the personal perspective of people who have served as board trustees on what the job is like, what some of the rewarding parts of the job are, what some of the challenges that we believe we'll be facing in the future, and encouraging people to consider running for the board. So we'd ask that they keep looking on the website, as well as I think it'll be pushed out in social media. And then I think that's basically where we're at. We're going to start planning the summer retreat pretty soon, because we hope there will be at least one new board member
Well,
coming onto the board.
Great, thank you. And communications. Josh, do you have any updates on there?
I do not have any updates, so I yield back the time.
All righty. That leaves audit and policy. Policy has not met, correct?
Policy is not met. I am hoping to schedule something depending on administrators' availability and then board members' availability for the week after vacation, so that we can continue our work.
Great. And anything from audit? No, and audit has not met either, correct? All right. All right. So that concludes board reports, and we can move into polling of the board. Does anyone have anything they would like to bring up for polling?
Yeah, the only thing that I will bring up is that I know we had spoken in the past about the Katz property, which is presently before the planning board. I believe on Tuesday night, they actually met to discuss, perhaps even have a public hearing on it. And with regard to the financial aspects of that, I will be following up with the village perhaps next week to get more details as to the financial arrangements and the payment in lieu of taxes arrangement as part of the financing for that project. I will also add and I don't know if this was mentioned by me at the March 11th meeting, that one of the things that will be discussed in the environmental assessment that needs to be done by the developer is the effect of the development on the schools in terms of enrollment and in terms of transportation, be it pedestrian, bicycle, or bus. So we will be following up on that to make sure that we are apprised of what this development may mean for our schools, and they are advised of what might be most important for us to make sure that our students are able to be transported safely.
I just have one thing, which is it's related to communications. And just to clarify, Josh, do you know when our next, I guess we're not calling it Black Cow though, Google Meet will be?
I do have that on the calendar.
April 6th.
I believe it is April 6th, the Tuesday
April
before.
6th, yes.
Yep.
April the 6th.
So that's one thing we do want to coordinate with Tracy to get the information out about.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And just to let the public know that April 6th.
Yeah, we have a daytime session from 12 to 1 p.m. With 15-minute time slots. And we have a 7 to 8:30 session in the evening, again with 15-minute time slots. And there will be a Sign Up Genius posted with instructions on how to sign up. I want to point out that I was very happy to see, actually, now that you mention it, we had take for the most recent Meet the BOE session. All but 2 of the slots were taken, which is very good.
Anyone else have anything for polling? All right, we'll move on to items needed for the next Board of Education meeting. So our next meeting will be our April business meeting, which is on April 8th. We will have, at the beginning of that meeting, BOCES will be coming to give us a presentation regarding the upcoming superintendent search. So they will be making their presentation at the very beginning of the meeting. So that will be Dr. Ryan and Dr. Allen and Lou Riolo will be joining us. And they'll be joining us virtually to give their presentation.
Sarah, that'll be at 7:30. That will be at 7:30.
That will be at 7:30. So, I mean, we'll, after we approve the agenda and say the Pledge of Allegiance, then they'll give their presentation before any reports or anything.
Okay, no, because I just recalled now that we have another ask the board,
correct,
prospective candidates opportunity to ask the board questions right before that meeting.
Right, that will be before that meeting. So that'll end at 7:15, and then our board meeting will start at 7:30.
And then the only other thing that we know of is the follow-up for the item that we tabled
correct
at today's meeting concerning the project.
We will make sure that gets
Eagle
on the
Scout
agenda.
project. Right.
All right.
And I will say that no, it won't happen. I was going to say if policy meets during the week of the 5th, if we meet early enough, Like if we meet that Monday, I might, and we do have policies that we have approved for first reading. We might be able to have them for first reading on the 8th, but
I think
No
schools
guarantee.
close on Monday, Neil.
School is closed on Monday.
okay, well then, I guess unless somebody's coming back early from vacation,
No.
doesn't look like it, then we're
Looks like your
talking about-
policies will be in the June business meeting.
No, May.
May business meeting. You're right. Sorry, I was skipping right over May. All right. Anyone have anything else then, either for the next business meeting, anything else for the board?
Well, just reminder that the goals will be on that.
Correct. Yes, we
Oh,
already
right.
have that
Mhm.
put into for the next agenda. All right. So yes, if anyone has any comments on those, please let board development know. All right. Well, with that, it's been a while since we've done this before 9 o'clock. Recommended action that the Board of Education adjourns the meeting.
So moved.
All in
Sec-
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose,
Aye.
abstain, motion carried. Thank you very much, everyone who joined and everyone who is watching us on live streaming. Hope you all have a nice night.
Good night.
Bye.
Night. Tracy, you want me to do the close of meeting? You want me to because you always want me to do the close of meeting. You're talking to your mute.
Oh, I'm so sorry. There's no exec session.